Welcome everyone to Haven of Horror. As always, I am a subject. We've got Santa, Naughty Robert Claus, and
Oh
Noah. Noah,
You got
The
it.
elf.
Noah the
I'm
elf,
the elf.
and we are here to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night, which I do not own, so no props for this review. I had seen this before. This is your guys' first viewing, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Noah, why don't you give us your first, what you thought this movie would be and what it ended up being for you?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much along the lines of what I thought it would be. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to be it's kind of doing something about like strict punishment and its effect on kids. But most of it is just schlock. Like it's not like a smart movie or anything. But um,
See, I'm going to
yeah,
fight you a little bit on that. It's not like high art, but I think there's a thoughtful exploration of trauma in this. I know that's a meme, but like
trauma.
this is elevated a little bit with that stuff.
A little bit. I think it's still probably. I think it's just a schlocky slasher movie, but it's definitely thinking about that kind of stuff. And it's. I was a little surprised, even though I feel like I shouldn't have been surprised to learn that this movie was very controversial when it came out. Because you think of something like this coming out now, it's like, who cares? They're them taking Santa and like perverting it, making it like this horror thing. But yeah, like back then, and a lot of conservative parents were very offended by that. And of course, Siskel and Ebert trashed this movie when it came out, as they do for a lot of horror. Um, but yeah, no, it's just funny because a lot of the commentary in that movie is made more interesting with that context around it coming out.
Mm-hmm. So you gave what you experienced with it, but did the movie live up to what you thought your preconceived notions going in?
I think it met my preconceived notions. Yeah, I'd say this is probably a better movie because I actually have seen part two.
As have I.
John and I watched. John and I watched it a few years ago around Christmas. It was pretty funny. So I don't remember too much from it, but a lot, like half of that movie is just scenes from this movie. So I had seen a little bit of this before. um, but I'd say that one is still probably a more entertaining movie, even though this might technically be a better movie. They're they're both like kind of. I mean, neither of them are high art, but this one's a little more like passable, like slasher for the time.
I, I'm still going to fight you on that with due respect. I think you're letting the schlock override the writing. I think there's some really good character stuff in this movie. Obviously, not like A24 modern horror, but I think it rises above just being schlock and like there's some. I feel for Billy at the end by the end of this.
Yeah, when I say schlock, I don't completely mean that as a negative thing. One of the things I picked up on was how self-aware the movie is. It seems like the people who made it have a lot of awareness of the absurdity of like a killer Santa Claus movie. There's some really goofy moments in this.
It's heightened certainly, but before we get too much further into that, with Robert, because I think you might be more in line with me on this. But what did this movie meet your preconceived notions? Did it surpass them? How was your experience with this film?
So this is a movie I know a decent enough about before watching it. I know about the second one. I know a lot of that movie's just stock footage and replaying this one. I knew about the controversy, that insane controversy, which we can get into later. And I also know this has kind of a reputation or a bit of a cult following for being a little smarter and a little better than a lot of slasher movies, which I would agree with. There are definitely schlocky elements. It is goofy, but there are other scenes that are played very sincerely and they play it completely straight. And it's not the best I've seen. You know, it's not as good as
Certainly.
something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but if you it's funny how much like Siskel and Ebert hated it and other critics hated it and how many people dismissed it, which I guess Noah would be one of them. And in my opinion, I have seen many a slasher film from this era that I would say this far exceeds. Like, I don't know if it makes my top 10, but it's one of the better ones. There's actual writing here, there's actual character development, there are themes, and like you were saying, you know, there is some self awareness, there is some goofiness, some intentional, some maybe not so intentional, but like this is probably a hot take. I think this is better than the first Friday the 13th movie. I mean, that has
I
Betsy
agree with
Palmer in a
that.
great third act, but I like
I,
this is a solid movie.
I'm with you on that for sure.
That doesn't mean
And
anything, Noah.
and the thing though that sets this apart from many other ones and gives it a bit of its cult status beyond just the Christmas setting is our protagonist is the killer. We spend the first half of the movie on
Yeah.
their origin, following them, and then see him go off the deep end and become a killer in the second half. That makes it kind of unique. We don't have a traditional final girl, and things like that I find pretty interesting.
What I find interesting about the structure, to follow up on that, is that's what Rob Zombie is trying to do. This is what Rob Zombie is trying to do in his first Halloween.
I was thinking
This is
that.
a little bit better than that. I like his Halloween. I know I'm in the minority on that one. But I was surprised that we had tried that so early in the subgenre's life, and succeeded. Like I said, he feels like a real person, and at the end of the movie, I do feel bad for him because it is a failure of the system that he is in.
Yeah.
And to kind of meet you guys both halfway, it's like, yes, there is some schlockiness to it. There is some sleaze, and there are elements to it where I was thinking you could remake this and do this better. But at the end of the day, this is what this is building to is a guy in a Santa suit killing people, killing people. And I think it's good
Yeah.
enough. Like,
My
I say mission accomplished.
See, I had that thought for a second. My only issue is if we made this now, it's like 3 hours. The first half is just the him as a kid. Um,
Yeah.
but then the second half when he's just is the killer, it would never be this goofy in a modern take on this.
Mhm.
And I think you need that goofiness, because yes, like I said, I do feel bad for him, but that only carries you so far. You need something to keep,
Right.
at least for me, keep me interested. And this has some really interesting, I think, unique, creative kills.
It
It
does.
does.
And we don't ever forget that he's not a bad guy in the strict, or I guess I should say, not a villain like a Jason or a Michael, because
He's definitely a killer.
he is a killer, but we never
No, I
forget
see what
that,
you mean. He's
because like you have
sympathetic.
that really nice moment where like the girl comes down and he gives her the box knife. It's creepy, but it's also it's also, I think, a nice moment because it shows that he's not completely gone yet.
Interesting. I feel like he is completely gone at that point because he's slipped into that whole being the like what he perceives as Santa as punishing all those who are naughty, and then he can't even like get an actual gift for this little girl. He's just got this bloody box cutter.
Well, you gotta give her what you got on hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that episode of SpongeBob when Squidward has to be Santa and give all these weird things to children as gifts.
Yeah.
It's like a
Look how
box of
that turned
matches.
out.
What it's like.
So I think the funniest thing about this movie is it seems like the entire universe is dead set on him becoming a killer, because like the first introduction of this character is him meeting his catatonic grandfather, who mysteriously just wakes up.
This is
And
where it's
for
writing
no
that line of
reason,
schlock, where it's like,
yeah.
okay, so is the idea that his grandfather is a psychopath and that's maybe been passed on a bit, or is his grandfather just a trickster and made a really unfortunate prank that had dire
Really
consequences?
unfortunate joke on that night.
I don't know.
Well, and obviously it's also a coincidence that the night that he says that, there is a guy pretending to be Santa, going
Yep.
around
Yeah.
killing people. And it's also interesting to note, Robert, since you know about this, and then Noah and I watched this, the brother isn't a retcon. It is here in this first movie.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what's insane is that we're gonna say that his brother, as a baby, remembers this stuff and remembers stuff that he wasn't there for because he's gonna keep flashing back to this movie.
Yeah, that movie loses any kind of like
That's for another time.
high writing. That is just schlock.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, how did you guys feel about the grandfather thing?
It's funny
I
in a
just
really
I
dark.
just thought it was really absurd. I
Yeah,
don't know why this supposedly catatonic man gets out of his yeah, no, he becomes conscious for a second just so he could mess with this kid. Or is it
Who wouldn't?
something like he like actually believes that like Santa's gonna punish all of the naughty kids? Or I don't know. Like
I don't know.
there's stuff that isn't that I feel like should be explored there
shocked nobody has made a prequel to this.
about the grandpa.
Yeah, I'm kind
Well,
of shocked at
That's
that.
his story.
well, the more shocking part
Whoa,
is
no,
that
it's
we're
sinking.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. The more shocking part is we're introduced to a different killer Santa early on who will end up killing Billy's parents and traumatizing him. And I want to know his backstory. I want like a never-ending cycle of prequels. Like, did he encounter an evil Santa that traumatized him when he was a kid? Is this a cycle that keeps happening?
Yeah. It's just
Over the
a
decades?
world that's like predisposed to killer Santas. They're just all
Yeah,
over the place in this world.
And then
the Cults
Robert,
of Santa. I want that movie.
you were the one that kept harassing me to watch the remake of this, Silent
Mm.
Night. How did this compare to seeing the remake first,
That's what's
or
funny. Like that's a
remake?
And I think that's why I kind of am fighting no a little bit on this being pure schlock, because the remake is what I would call pure schlock with very little substance and themes going on, and it's so disconnected that I kind of wish it was just called something else. They do a repeat of at least one kill from this movie that's pretty iconic, and you've got a guy dressed as Santa killing people. That's kind of the extent of the connections, and I think that is a fun
Okay.
movie, but this is a better movie with a lot more going on. That has a much more traditional cast of characters and protagonists, and you get a twist reveal of who the Santa is at the end. That's a much more
Yeah.
traditional, like tropey slasher movie than this is.
Okay. That'll be interesting to
They
watch
also
them back to
generic.
back.
They also genericified the name. It's just Silent Night.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
frustrating because there's like 5 movies called Silent Night. We just got
Even
one that was
recently,
an
yeah.
action movie. Yeah, can we
Um,
come up with a different title, please?
And would you
what I
believe they
just want
made
to
4 more of these?
Oh yeah, it goes off the
I do know
rails.
about that, yeah.
But 3,
Um,
4, and 5 are not connected to this in any way.
Yeah,
of
and
course.
what's weird is like this got so much media attention. There were also like celebrities and other personalities who were like very angry about this movie. One of
Oh
which
yeah,
was Mickey. One of which is
yeah.
Mickey Rooney, who ended up being in one of the sequels to this.
Yeah, I heard about that today when I
Okay,
was
I
like doing
lied.
some
Sorry.
research.
Silent Night 2 and 3 are about Billy, or Billy's younger brother Ricky. It's 4 and 5 that
Yeah.
are just kind of standalone. Like,
Yeah.
we gotta
They're
slap the name
yeah.
on it.
And also with the title, another thing I want to mention is like this is far from the first Christmas horror movie. We've done a few of these before this. There's Silent Night, Bloody Night in the early 70s, and then Black Christmas was almost called Silent Night, Evil Night, and then they changed it to Black. So if you count those, there's a whole line of Silent Night Christmas themed
Well,
weird movies.
I
And as
assume.
for the go on.
Sorry, go on. Oh,
Well, and for the whole
yeah.
evil Santa. Okay, sorry.
No.
I'm one
Jesus
last thing.
first.
criminy.
You first.
Okay,
You first.
Robert, go.
Okay. So, but with the whole evil Santa thing, part of the funny thing is like this isn't even the first movie to do that. There's a movie called Christmas Evil from a few years earlier. That's a much smaller and kind of goes under the radar, and I think was originally called You Better Watch Out or something, and then changed to
Mhm.
Christmas Evil. So we have that, and then there's a anthology movie from the '70s called Tales of the Crypt. Before the popular TV show, and that has a segment with a lunatic dressed as Santa Claus killing people. And that's like the creepiest
Um,
evil Santa I've ever seen. That one stuck with me. That's a
Yeah.
good movie, or at least that short's really good at it. So that's just part of the funny thing about the controversy is like, yeah, this isn't the first movie to do this.
Well, but
I
I
was
think
gonna say,
you
was this
pointed
one
out
of the
the
first like high profile
Mhm.
examples of a movie with a killer Santa? I
what
think
Who's
that's
not
probably
actually Santa.
yeah, but I mean I think you pointed out the difference
aggressive
there is
Santa.
not as many people saw those, and this is at the height of like, you know, Roger Ebert riling people up about these slasher films, and so there's
Mhm.
factors that go into that whole
The video nasties and
The
all that.
hysteria.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is surprisingly gory for an '80s slasher,
Hmm.
just compared to even some of the more underground stuff.
When I assume we all watched the uncut version.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
The theatrical version was a lot tamer.
that is
Yeah.
true. I've only seen that. I think the uncut version.
And
But I'm
Noah, what was there? What did I interrupt you on? What
No,
did you want
I
to get
was
to?
literally gonna ask if this was the only or one of the first like examples of a movie with a killer Santa, and it
Nope.
no. So
yeah, and it's important to note that that controversy almost like ruined this movie coming out because they had to deal
they
with
pulled it from
TriStar.
theaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is this comes out, has a really big opening weekend, and then theaters just start pulling it just because of the controversy and not wanting to deal with the headache. So it ends up not pulling in a lot much, but I mean, it still turns a profit, and
Yeah.
Well,
over
yeah, that's
time,
what
it's
happens
just
when
gained
you make this
reputation
movie
as
for
a cult movie.
$750,000,
Right.
and it made like 2 million.
Hmm.
But it is funny how controversial the movie is, contrasting that with the actual content of the movie, and because eventually the main character Billy is sent to this orphanage where the head nun is very abusive to him,
Who I
Who's
and
consider the
arguably
main
the
villain.
movie's villain.
she is the villain of the movie. Yes, and it was just crazy to me watching like this kid belongs in a mental institution, or just like he belongs somewhere where they're gonna take care of him. Not, I don't know how you don't understand how to handle this situation and just send him to a regular orphanage. Like,
Well, it's very much like, especially in the '80s, the system didn't have like a place for this for a kid that had gone through this situation. And then
yeah,
you
what?
get him to
Yeah,
this orphanage that's run by nuns, who this nun in particular is like determined that her way is the right way. Because I do like that you get that other nun who is like, no, he needs different kind of care, but
right.
she is quickly shut down.
Yeah, so it's funny that you get a little bit of like actual discussion on that, and then that controversy of the movie happens.
Well, no,
It's like,
I
oh
don't
well,
know if you figured this out, but the people who start those controversies didn't actually watch it.
no, of course, yeah. But even like from critics who supposedly should watch the movie and give it a chance, like it's disappointing to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there is a lot of sleaziness here and some touchy subject matter. I just don't know how something like Halloween gets a pass from certain critics, and then this is like nothing and just pure filth and
I mean
evil.
the
It's like there's stuff going on here.
I mean if you pay attention
Yeah,
to '80s critical reviews, they are immediately turned off anytime there's anything kind of like gory or sleazy, and for whatever reason,
And
whatever
stuff
like
involving kids.
interesting ideas the movie may have, they never touch upon.
Mhm. And for me, one of the more disturbing scenes in the movie, because it plays it straight, like it doesn't do anything goofy with it, is first the nun beats the kid with a belt, which is really messed up. And that kid's a pretty good actor, who plays young Billy. And then later, will because he keeps leaving his room, will tie him to a bed, and he's just screaming for help for someone. Like they play that
yeah,
completely straight, and it's uncomfortable. I could see that being something a critic or an adult at the time would watch and go, "Oh, this movie's evil," and it's like, no, it's not advocating for
yeah.
this behavior.
When
It
if it
should be
made you
clear.
and if it made you uncomfortable, that's the
That's
idea.
the
Like
point.
that's
Yeah.
what's supposed to. Yeah, that's you're supposed to be thinking about these stuff. but this
Mhm.
stuff, like,
These stuff.
Yeah, like how many
these stuffs.
how many other slasher movies before this can you name that shows like the step-by-step process of yeah, this is how this person cracks. Like the movie
And that was
has a
actually
surprising
pretty.
attention to detail.
That was actually pretty interesting. I thought that was unique, and I did appreciate that part of it. I don't want to say that this movie isn't like about anything or isn't like trying to.
Oh, we won him over.
No. I just don't think it's that deep. I think it's doing the bare minimum, whereas other movies of this genre don't even attempt. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I don't even know if it's doing the bare minimum because a lot of slasher movies, a lot of ones I like, are just walking around the woods and meandering for half the movie, and then okay, now the kills are starting. There's a lot of padding. This doesn't have any padding. Like I never found it boring.
And also, if it was doing the bare minimum, you would have just gotten the scene with the parents. They wouldn't have spent
Mhm.
so long just like explaining his psychology, like showing, life didn't get better.
Yeah, and that's the important distinction too. He doesn't just snap and now he's killing people. He has like a code or a twisted sense of morality, and the movie spends the first half showing how he gets
Yeah,
there, setting that up.
by the end, and we can get to it when we get to the killing spree, but I found myself questioning why he was killing certain people.
Okay.
Like his
We'll
code
get to
Okay,
it.
didn't
I'll get there.
seem it didn't seem all that concrete to me. But
Okay.
We'll get to it. So on
I think it's
December,
less flimsy than Jigsaw's.
you're you're on about that.
And it's a good movie.
So
This
after the grandfather, we get a scene where Santa walks into a gas station, and he ends up hilariously killing the gas station attendant for no reason. And then he has one of my
Yeah,
favorite
this
lines
guy's
in the
great.
movies. $35. Fuck me. And then oh, sorry.
Oh, go.
No, no.
Well, just one quick thing. One thing that can maybe hasn't made this movie age great or could be touchy for some people is just how it explores mental illness. It's obviously very ignorant to certain things. Where it's just a movie. But for anyone like, I think this is still treats the mental side of this character better than at least other movies of its time. And it's important to start that what kickstarts this whole story is this first evil Santa who's portrayed as just a bad guy. He's not portrayed as crazy. He's just portrayed as this is just an evil, morally
asshole.
corrupt person. This movie doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it's anti-mental health. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Right.
not like the best, but it's also better than others.
I mean, he's
I've
just
seen
a
of that
criminal.
type. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's not equated to what Billy eventually becomes. Like it's a very different kind of thing. Like that guy's just an asshole.
Yeah. And then the parents like try to pull away, but he shoots. He miraculously like hits them because apparently he's a sniper.
Well, he shoots a bunch of bullets. One just gets the head.
Yeah, but he hits both of. Well, no, I guess he does just kill the dad.
Right, and then the car crashes.
And then our first like really exploitative scene, he like yanks the mom out of the car and like rips her shirt open.
I was surprised that happened that early in the movie.
Oh yeah, and again, it is exploitive, and this is the type of thing that will really piss people off, especially at the time. But there is a reason for it. It's at least motivated for stuff that happens later in the movie, and for Billy's psychology. So yeah, it's exploitive, but there's also a reason for it. And again, the movie's not saying this is good. But when it comes out, people look at it as, oh, this movie's advocating rape. Like, this is an evil movie. Like, no, it's not. It should be clear, but okay.
I know. Just pay attention to the movie, and you can see it's
Please
clearly
watch
not
it.
advocating
It's
any of
played
this.
for horror.
At least watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is also a bit comic booky because like he has to watch the whole thing. Which just reminded me of like a more exploitative Bruce Wayne origin.
Mm-hmm. That's a good call.
Except this guy would be Santa Man.
Batman became a killer instead of a hero.
Yeah. And then we skipped 3 years, and this is where we kind of start to get into, we meet Mother Superior, who is awful. Great performance, though. I never once
Yes.
doubt that this woman is a monster.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about Mother Superior?
She's a great villain. Yeah. Like you said, the actor's very good. One of the few good performers in this movie. I'm gonna say the acting is not one of the strongest parts of this movie.
No, it's not.
Uh,
But I've seen worse.
yeah, it's not like
I've
awful.
seen Friday the
I've seen
13th
worse
Part
in the
3.
sequel, so.
Exactly.
But she was good.
Yeah, and I think she went uncredited, and then doesn't come back for the sequel. So I wouldn't be surprised if she kind of turned her back on this. But I don't know.
She wanted her name
Uh,
off.
Possibly.
She's credited on
who's
Wikipedia,
to?
at least.
Yeah, I mean we know who she is, but like in the film, she's
Yeah.
not. So I don't know, but she is very good.
She's in Noah's other favorite movie, Predator 2.
Which one?
Oh, that's a good movie.
That movie
Yeah.
keeps coming up recently.
That movie
And
is peak.
as much as she is a monster and does these horrible things to children, it's still clear that like that this is her own sense of morality, like a twisted sense of morality. But she believes what she's doing is for the best. Like, no, I need to take these extreme measures for the results I want, for the better of people. So like she believes what she's doing is right.
Yeah,
And again,
she is very pro punishment, which will be a reoccurring theme for the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, Billy starts acting up around Christmas time, and rather than dealing with the trauma of it all, which is what the other nun, I don't know her name off the top of my head, suggests, she decides he is going to sit on Santa's lap and be forced to behave. And this is my first big laugh of the movie. He decks the Santa Claus guy. And
across the room.
Yeah, that is like the strongest 8-year-old ever.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we should mention that one of Billy's superpowers is super strength.
It is.
Well, I mean, he is the slasher.
And I think the other nun is Sister Margaret. She becomes kind of one of the main characters by the end of the movie. And again, it's just funny with Mother Superior, where it's like her rationalization is, no, he needs to conquer this fear. He needs to get over it. But we, the audience, could see, no, making this kid sit on Santa's lap is like the worst thing you could do for him. To us, it's so obvious that this is a bad idea.
For what I got more that she was trying to deal with a kid who is misbehaving. I don't think I didn't get any real feelings of sympathy to Billy from her.
No, but she does have that discussion with Sister Margaret. Like, they do know about his past and his trauma and stuff, and they have the disagreement about how they should go about it.
From what I remember in that scene, even in that scene, she came across as really dismissive, or she says something like, "Oh, just because he saw what happened to his parents doesn't mean he can act out like this," or something like that. So she is like positioned truly as a villain in the movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's their first kind of introduction, and then if I had to compare this again to Halloween 2007, sorry, this is the scene where Michael's in the institute and like Loomis is trying to reach him. But like I said, a little more fleshed out, and then we skip to 10 years later. He's 18, and this is where the rest of the movie. Well,
he looks like a completely different person.
He does. Well, no, I don't know if you know this, but over 10 years, you tend to look different when you're 8.
No, yes, but you tend to. He goes from having like darker hair to being a blonde when he's an adult.
That's fine. You don't know. Maybe he dyed it.
Anyway.
He gets a job at this store.
And we get my favorite scene in the movie, which is that montage.
It's great.
It's just so
How many
funny.
slasher movies have a happy feel good
Yeah.
montage.
I felt like I was watching a sitcom.
So good.
I mean, from a certain point of view, this is a sitcom.
It was pretty funny.
There's some
Uh,
wacky shenanigans.
And what I like as well is that he develops a crush on one of his coworkers, and like he starts to have thoughts and because we gotta ramp up the sleaze
Impure
again.
thoughts.
But he has impure thoughts, and it really shows that he is still like a teenager, but it also shows the effects that Mother Superiors had because he starts to see her and like realize that it's bad to think these things, and so kind of in an interesting way, she has turned him into a celibate because
Yes.
he views sex as this bad thing.
Yeah, it has literally been beaten
Yeah.
into him that sex is evil, which, like, again, it's extreme, but not unrealistic. Like, this does happen in certain
No, I
cultures
mean-
and institutions.
Yeah, that was happening, especially at the time. That
Mm.
that sort of punishment and teaching.
It's so weird that the movie feels like it's commenting on the hysteria and controversy that it couldn't have anticipated. They just made a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Well, and
it's
I like that it shows that side of there was deep psychological scarring just from the way that Mother Superior treated this kid, and who knows how many other kids in that orphanage have had the same thing happen to them.
right.
Yeah, and the fact that his first exposure to sexuality is his mom getting raped or attempted rape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can bleep this out. Sorry, YouTube. But so that's obviously going to be very scarring for a child.
Yeah, and they don't teach him how. He's never taught how to deal with that.
yeah, because that kind of upbringing in the orphanage could already be really damaging to a kid that didn't go through that experience, but it's even worse with this situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
And then we get what might be the second funniest thing, and where the universe seems convinced to turn this kid into a killer. He is the only one that can play Santa after their Santa is injured.
yeah,
He tries.
I don't know why they didn't get that. Or maybe just because he's kind of an asshole, but that other guy that he like butts heads with in the store.
Well,
Yeah,
it seemed to
too
me
short.
like the idea is that Billy has been like a model employee, so they think they can trust him,
Mhm.
whereas the other guy
Yeah.
probably isn't.
Right.
And the boss, like, he probably doesn't know about Billy's tragic backstory. Like, he just knows he's an orphan. Like, I think that's all he knows. So no one told him, "Oh, hey, don't put him in a Santa suit."
Don't put him anywhere near Santa.
That was one of the things that I thought was weird because you have that scene later where he's drunk. And Billy's like, "Oh yeah, I've been thinking about my parents." He's like, "Oh yeah, boy should think about his parents on Christmas." He's like, "They're dead."
They're dead.
He's like, "Oh, I forgot."
God.
Which made me think, "Oh wait, so if he does know that he's an orphan, he had to have known about how his parents were orphaned." I guess
I don't.
His
I don't
parents
think he
were
does, 'cause
orphaned?
Remember,
how he was orphaned. How his
Well,
parents
remember-
died.
I mean, they should have told him this, but remember, Sister Margaret like introduces Billy to him and says like, he's from the orphanage I work at. I want him to work. He's an adult. I want him to work here. I think that's all he
true.
knows.
Yeah, he doesn't have to know that that's how they died.
Right.
Noah is
I-
going full cinema sins, folks.
I thought that since he'd been working there for a bit, he might know at some point. But right, it's not something that his employer needs to know when he's hired.
It was the 80s. It was a very different time.
Yeah. I like that boss character too. By the way, he's really funny.
He's fun.
He's really
It's
funny.
fun. And again, to your point about like clearly intentional humor, is when we see Billy attempt to be Santa, and the one girl is sitting on his lap, and this is like one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You need to not be naughty, or else you'll be punished." And the other employees or bosses from in the background are like, "Wow, he's doing great. He's the best
parents
Santa
are
we've ever had."
oh, he's so good with kids. I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy's a psycho.
Yeah. So should we move on to what triggers this whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he sees Andy try to assault his love interest, and it unlocks. And I find it interesting that it's not just the Santa suit or the kids. It has to be a mixture of things, and at the end of the day, it is the assault, which ultimately is what sets him off. Further
Yeah,
reassuring that
went
like
further than I was expecting. I was like, oh damn. So he's not just like a scummy coworker. He's a really scummy coworker. Like
yeah.
this guy would be arrested if it wasn't for Billy stepping in and saving the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Depending on your point of view.
You also get another showcase of Billy's super strength when he picks him up and strangles him
with the Christmas lights.
With the Christmas lights, but it's just surprising that he could do that with one arm.
He's the slasher. They gotta be able to do some unrealistic stuff.
They fed him whatever they fed Tyler Mane and Rob Zombie's Halloween.
So what I find interesting though is that he saves her, but then he also kills Pamela, his love interest, when she was the victim.
She was, but she does freak out. And I mean, granted, maybe you would in that situation, but she should have just ran. But she does like kind of freak out and tell Billy, like, she says stuff like, "What did you do? Like, you're a monster." Like, I don't remember her exact words, but it was something like that, and that kind of made him turn on her.
Yeah.
See, I like to read it as that he can't tell that like he has been so like screwed up with how he's views sex and seeing what happened to his mom, that he sees her as equally guilty because he is so screwed up.
I was thinking about that too, because this is one of those cases where I was like, well, if he's only killing people who he sees as naughty, she didn't really do anything wrong. So I don't know why he would kill her only just because she starts freaking out.
I think it has to do with the fact that she was having sex.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of everything.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt there. No.
Also, one thing we forgot to mention, that part of what spurred this on too is during that drunk scene with his boss. Billy takes his advice too literally, because his boss says, like, you're Santa, you got a busy night tonight, and then I think his boss literally says, "Go get him." So to Billy, that's a big part. And remember, he looks up to his boss, at least at first, not in a minute. But like, that's a big part of it. His motivation is permission. Like, oh, I am Santa now, and this is what I have to do. So again, like that stuff's sprinkled in there. And I really appreciate that. Like his boss tells him, "Go get him, you're Santa," and he takes it the very wrong way.
Okay,
but then he kills his boss, and I'm not sure why.
He was being drunk.
Well, weren't he and the manager kind of flirting, or?
Yeah, a little bit.
It read more as friendly, like playfulness to me.
Well, but think of it from a guy that thinks sex is inherently bad.
And but I think their drunkenness was also a factor. Or at least that's how it read to me watching it.
I didn't get the idea that he interpreted that as a sexual thing.
But it might also be what Robert said. It's just like because they're drinking, and that is a naughty thing to do.
No, as I'm thinking about it right
Santa.
now.
5 minutes ago he was Billy. Now he's Santa.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it could be the alcohol consumption thing. That's something that was never really set up, though, so it just kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere.
No, but I mean, you can infer that just from the basic rules of like what would be considered as a child, what is naughty and what is nice.
Yeah.
And then we get the best scene in the movie where he just goes on a rampage.
Yeah.
What toy store is this that sells a bow and arrow? That's one of the schlocky moments that I loved.
That reminds That reminds me of the RoboCop 2 opening where they rob a gun store that has a fucking bazooka.
Mhm.
But before we move on to the rest of the rampage, I want to ask, like, what toys stood out to you in this toy store? Because I saw a couple of things. I saw some Return of the Jedi stuff, like a
Oh, yeah, the
Jabba.
Jabba the Hutt
I
thing.
saw,
Yeah,
I think I saw Snoopy. I saw the Castle Grayskull from Masters of the Universe. I was like, oh, that was started by now. Okay, cool. Like, so those are a
I
few
was
things that
not
stood out
paying
to me.
attention.
Okay, because
but
this is clearly just like shot in a real toy store.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a set.
yeah. There's something from that movie Krull in the background, which I've never seen, but I know that's like kind of a cult '80s movie. So I just thought that was
Cool.
funny to see.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to watch this again. I want to get the Shout Factory Blu-ray and get more detail because the video version I watched was nice, but you can tell it was probably like a DVD source or heavily compressed.
Well, I don't think I mean, granted, like, I mean, this was it transferred to YouTube, so I'm sure the Blu-ray looks better, but the uncut version should be noted. A lot of the scenes that were added back in aren't
Yeah,
in the best shape.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have great stuff to work. So as far as I know, there's not like a pristine, perfect cut of this movie. Just there are some scenes with some much lower quality, grainy footage just inserted back in,
right.
which is fine. Like, it's totally watchable, but some of those moments do stand out. Like, oh, this is a lot lower
That was
resolution. As far as I know, that's just how the movie looks.
yeah, that was throwing me off when I was first watching on the version I watched. The the scenes that were put back in were in very low quality, but I didn't know that like there were cut scenes until I looked it up later.
Mhm.
So I was just like, oh, why is this? Why is it a VHS rip now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, a lot of the violence and nudity is like trimmed or cut down. And then there's a couple other scenes that were probably just cut for time. Like, I think the first one that really stood out to me was when the boss is really drunk. I think part of that conversation, the quality gets real bad. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this may have just been a deleted scene just cut by the studio for time, but
Mhm.
it's put back in because there's technically some important stuff that happens there.
It's
Yeah,
weird that some of that stuff was cut because you'd think that
Yeah.
they'd go for the violence, and they do. But it's weird that they cut some of like the conversation scenes for that.
Yeah, and as far as I know, the theatrical cut's like 80 minutes, and then the unrated cut, what we watched, it's like 85. So it's not even like substantially longer. But there are just little
Yeah.
bits like that cut out that have been put back in.
yeah,
Yeah, but now that we're on the rampage,
Yeah.
this goes back to some of the comedy I do think is intentional in this movie. I like the idea in a movie like this where there's a killer Santa that the cops put out like an APB on a guy dressed as Santa, and then you have scenes of them like killing random guys that aren't the killer that are just like
They could have gone
guys
further
dressed
with
as
that.
yeah,
I
they
wish the
could have,
remake did.
yeah.
No, my
Yeah,
favorite is where
because there's a
they
couple scenes like that.
my favorite is when they bust into that young girl's room and like
Yeah,
expose her dad as Santa.
Mhm.
Daddy.
They almost shoot this man in front of his
In
daughter.
front of his daughter. Well, then later, innocent priest gets shot in front of a bunch of
Yeah,
kids.
because they say shoot Santa on sight, which turns out to be a really bad idea.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a little commentary on the police system back in the day.
I don't know if it is, but that's definitely how people would read on it now. I'd argue this movie's gotten better with time,
Yeah,
just with the
Yeah.
different ratings you could have on it.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree. And then we get
But then,
the kill everybody knows from this movie. Poor Leanna Quigley,
Linnea Quigley,
Return of the Living Dead.
she's a legend.
Yeah, she gets it put on a deer head. Something about deer heads in the '80s. This Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, they were
and
everywhere.
that's it.
Yeah, you could just buy them at your local Walmart. It was a
So
thing.
no, I don't. I'm sure they had footage of this in the original movie, but did you see that coming? Like that's how he kills her.
Once they showed the shot of the deer head, I was like, oh
The
yeah, this is
antlers.
where that's the antlers. I was like, yeah, this is where this is going.
And yeah,
Um,
her boyfriend puts up a fight. R.I.P. to
yeah,
that dude.
Yeah,
Better than the guy in Halloween, Bob or whatever.
Bob.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
love Bob.
my favorite part about that though is that she has to go let the cat in. She opens the door in like the middle of winter with no shirt on.
Topless. Yeah.
It's a very tasteful scene.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's very tasteful. Very
Robert
classy.
wasn't drooling at all.
Ugh.
But yeah, she gets put on a deer head. She's next year's decoration.
And then
Yeah.
you get probably my favorite kill, the sled.
Yes. And again, at first I was wondering, like, oh, is he gonna kill these two guys just to kill them? No. These guys are then beat up by the Stephen King bullies, and then they steal
Yeah.
their sleds. So now it's like, okay, now he has permission to kill them.
Then it's
These guys are
justified.
naughty.
Yeah. So Noah, we went over most of the kills now. Which you mentioned you weren't sure about the drinking one. What was the other one where you're like, I don't know if this follows the code?
We'll get to it later. It's that cop guy.
Okay.
He killed Santa. He had to go. That was just.
Was it the same cop that shot the Santa?
Yes.
Or was that a different cop? Okay. Well.
That was justice. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know if Billy was there to witness that either, but sure, whatever.
Billy is everywhere.
He is.
He's everywhere, yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that's what kind of like is in the third act of this. He kind of gets like a naughty detector where he just shows up when people are being naughty.
can we please have that be what it is? He just senses it in the
He's got a
remake.
sense.
He bought it at the same store Jason got his.
I was gonna say it's the same that Jason has. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I find funny as well with the conservative of the time outrage. Slashers are inherently kind of conservative.
Right. it's like
if you read them at face value, yeah.
Well, it's just funny if you like Friday the 13th or this or whatever. It's like these movies manage to piss off both sides because they're too sleazy and exploitive for conservatives, but then to liberals like Siskel and Ebert, this is like anti-sex and like that. I'm just quoting them.
Was that one of their concerns with it?
This movie and a lot of other slasher movies, that's part of their issue is like, oh, these movies are really regressive and stuff. And like the whole Final Girl thing is very controversial because a lot of people hate that like the virginal good girl is the one to win, but then the more promiscuous girls are the ones taken out. And, and obviously there is a degree of issues with that and some fair criticisms. I'm just saying it's funny that it's like both sides aren't happy
right
with this type of movie, just depending on how you're looking at
Yeah.
Yeah, I assumed the whole deal with the controversy of this was just that it was a perversion of a pure figure like Santa Claus. I didn't read that deeply into it.
And like I'm also just kind of talking about slasher movies in general. They're also kind of on their way out by this point because this same year we get Nightmare on Elm Street, which kind of kicks on a new type of popular horror movie that are a little less exploitive but also more fantastical. Like Freddy Krueger isn't as immediately controversial as some of these movies are, because those are a lot more fantasy based. And I think part of what kickstarted this controversy was that there were ads for this on TV, like just during the day in between episodes of stuff like Little House on the Prairie. So kids were seeing ads for this movie and being scared. So it's like, to me, the controversy of this movie like should begin and end there. Like, hey, don't market your R-rated scary horror movies on programs that children may witness. Not let's picket this movie and protest its existence and act like it's actually about Santa Claus, which is not. It's about a guy dressed as Santa.
No one's gonna think that critically. You're gonna pick at the whole movie.
So, like I said, if the controversy is just, hey, don't show ads for the scary movie when kids might be exposed to it,
be seeing it.
Fair enough. That's understandable.
Yeah. No, it's such an interesting. I think the discussion behind this movie is a little bit more interesting than the movie itself. Honestly.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. I think this is a very interesting movie.
It's got stuff. It's got ideas, but like I said, I don't think it's that deep.
And they somehow know exactly who's doing this.
Mhm.
And you have the
Yeah,
policeman.
the second half moves really fast. Yep.
Yeah. No. And then we get the showdown with Mother Superior. Trying to think.
Well, first, a Santa Claus. I think, because there's a guy pretending to be Santa arriving at the orphanage, and the cop going to the orphanage
Yes.
gets the word out like, "Hey,
So-
shoot Santa on sight,"
Well,
and ends up shooting that guy in the back.
so that's why Billy kills him, because he killed that other guy. It's naughty. Only Santa can punish people.
That's right.
But he wasn't there to see that.
Well, he is in like that shed or whatever.
How do you
Surrounded.
know?
I don't know, it feels like he just came out of nowhere.
No, it's like, I'm not going to give this movie any benefit of a doubt.
Did you not hear me complimented earlier?
No, do it again.
Don't get so defensive. No, yeah, what do you guys think of the final moment with Ricky?
I think it's excellent sequel bait.
Yeah, I was really sad that really wanted that axe to just go right into Mother Superior's head. Like, she gets off scot-free, and I'm not happy about it.
I don't remember if they
And,
kill her in the sequel or not.
I think they do, but it's a different actress, so like whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, Billy shows up to kill her and gets taken out by the sheriff or whoever who's with the other nun.
No,
And then
Robert,
his
it's worse than that. You have the actress from this movie through the archival footage, but then in the modern footage, they recast. So they're both in the movie.
So I have a question.
I have an answer.
So this movie has a great cliffhanger. It's very like Friday the 13th Part 4 or Halloween Part 4 with, the next kid who's potentially going to be the killer, where Billy's axe lands in front of his younger brother, who looks up and says naughty. That kid, the character in the timeline is credited at being like 14. Did that kid look 14 to you guys?
No.
I don't think because Billy's supposed to be like 5 in the opening, and his little brother's a baby. So there's like a 4 to 5-ish year age gap. So why was Ricky casted so young at the end?
Yeah, because you see that they're both at the orphanage when they're little kids, and I was thinking about that when they go back. I was like, oh wait, his brother's still there?
I mean, he would be, but he'd be like 13 or 14, not however old this kid was.
Like 10 or 8.
And this will carry over to the second one. They do continue the story.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me sad is I am left wishing we kind of got like a real sequel to this movie with the same tone and effort and not half a recap. But that movie's hilarious, so
yeah, but we wouldn't have gotten Garbage Day.
Yeah,
that's true.
So and for record, so I said the first one's made for $750. They only gave this movie $250,000.
Yeah,
that's less than half the original's budget, and it only made $150,000. But yeah, that is Silent Night, Deadly Night. Noah, is there anything you want to discuss before we move on to final thoughts?
No, we can move on to final thoughts.
Robert, is there anything you would like to discuss before we move on to final thoughts?
No, I think. Oh, okay. So, final question for the group. We'll see if this turns into a fight. Is this a Christmas movie? Yay or nay?
Yes.
Thank God.
Why did you think that would turn into a fight?
There are weird people who don't consider movies like this Christmas movies who are just wrong.
Oh, well, you're
No,
talking to John and I, who both consider Die Hard a Christmas movie, so
That's true,
you know
and it is.
it
it
is. Yeah,
is.
that's not even a debate.
It's the best
People
Christmas movie.
if people get weird about that. There are people who are like, Gremlins isn't a Christmas movie. If you just change how he gets Gizmo to a birthday present and not a Christmas present, it's not. It's like, yeah, now you're changing the movie. What is the
Yeah.
point of this hypothetical argument? It's a Christmas movie, and same year as this. A good year for Christmas
Oh yeah.
movies.
Yeah. The 80s were just peak cinema.
Yeah, and now I will say, as much as I like this movie and been praising it again, like Noah said, some of the acting's not great. There's definitely a cheapness to it. There are some goofy moments. I don't think this is as good as something like Bob Clark's Black Christmas. That's probably my favorite Christmas horror movie. I think that's a masterpiece. I think this is pretty good, and the actor who plays Billy, like, yeah, he's kind of goofy, but I think he's decent. Like, I don't think he's bad. Like, he has goofy moments,
He's
but
not terrible.
Yeah.
no, and like he has to play the character really like endearing and sweet early on. He's trying, and then he has to play like kind of a stone cold killer, and I think he does both okay. He's like a weirdly polarizing like slasher villain. He ranks as one of the best and one of the worst depending on the list you're looking at.
Interesting.
There's
And I
also
will
another list
say,
that was like, oh, go on.
for me, all that stuff that you just mentioned, it just adds to the charm. None of that takes away from the experience for me.
Yeah. And I saw another list that was like ranked him as like one of the most socially awkward killers, and I'm like, yes, I think that's the point. Like, like, were you paying attention? Like, and that's part
Congratulations,
of why I
you figured
appreciated
it out.
it. Like, yeah, like I said, there is an attention to detail. Like, there are a million slasher killers from this era that have like really flimsy motivations, or they're crazy. They just kill people. Like this is kind of a decent foundation. Like there's a real kind of three-dimensional character crafted here. Really enough, weirdly enough, in this sleazy exploitive slasher movie, but I really dug it.
Yeah. Um. No, this is a top. This would be a top 5 Christmas. I'm sad I didn't put it on that list that we did. I think we did that together. I don't think I've seen it yet,
Okay, yeah, because I hadn't seen it yet.
or I forgot. No,
Sure.
I definitely hadn't seen it yet. I'm pretty sure, or I just forgot one of the two. But no, this would be a top 5. I think this is a great movie. It balances like the serious character study. Robert, best kill, worst kill. Let's have a little fun with this.
Oh, okay, and we'll give it to Noah too when I'm done.
Well,
Best
yes,
kill,
but I can't ask you both at the same time. One of you has to speak.
we can
first.
try.
We can have a
You can-
competition to see who answers first.
Best is the antlers one. I mean, it's just the most iconic. Trying to think of what the worst kill is, because another like there's some decent gore on this. There's a lot of blood squibs. I guess worst is probably just his dad in the opening, because we just see his body. Because he's hit through the head off screen. We just see the car get hit and see his body slump over. But even other kills, like when the boyfriend of Linnea Quigley gets thrown out the window, usually in like a Friday the 13th movie, something with a much bigger budget than this, they'll just show somebody go out the window and they're dead. But this guy, we get a close up and see all these pieces of glass put in for just one
Shard
shot.
glass
It's
in his
like,
body.
like,
Yeah.
they put a decent amount of detail into that. Cool. So yeah, that's my best is Linnea Quigley. My worst is the dad in the opening, just because it happens off screen. And I'm angry that Mother Superior got off scot-free. Like, this movie's a tragedy through and through.
I mean, it is. Like, unironically, I think there is a tragic element. Best in kill and worst kill.
My favorite is the sled decapitation.
That's a good one.
The antler one, that's cool, I guess, but I like how goofy the sled one is. That's more my sensibility. And then probably the worst, maybe Billy himself. He just kind of gets shot in the back.
Yeah, that's not a bad
falls
choice.
to the floor. Yeah, that's it for me, I think.
I am gonna go with the antler kill as well. It's cool. It's not something I've seen before. Worst is gonna be the arrow kill where he just shoots that lady in the back. It's fine. It's whatever.
It's really basic effect.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think this is a really interesting exploration of grief, trauma, um, nuns.
A-
Exploration of nuns.
A24 should take some notes. They could learn a thing or two from this
A
movie.
so I
That's what we're
don't want
saying.
them to remake this because it would lose a lot of the charm. But if anybody could remake this into a legitimate like slow burn horror flick, it would be A24.
Maybe Neon. I think I trust Neon more at this point.
I think
Yeah,
Neon would probably go for the more cheesy tone, but also take the serious stuff seriously.
yeah. No,
Mhm.
you know what? Give it to Neon. Let Neon do it. Fuck you,
Yeah.
A24. I don't like you anymore.
Get out of here,
Um,
A24.
but no, I find Billy a very interesting slasher villain. As a villain himself, he wouldn't make my top five, but that just speaks to how like crowded the '80s were with interesting and
Mm.
cool slashers. Um, the effects hold up well. I like the Christmas setting. This isn't my favorite Christmas horror film. That's still probably Anna and the Apocalypse, which I'm gonna make you watch eventually. I have a plan for that now. Um, I'm gonna go 4 out of 5, boys.
uh,
Okay.
Robert.
Noah, you go next.
No.
Me? Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's
Yeah.
not great, but it's good. No, I mean, I see what you guys are saying, it's actually about something. It's trying to be more about things than most slashers at the time were. So I give it points for showing up. Um, it's an actual movie. But
I don't know much.
yeah, it's an actual movie. I just don't find it all that deep or thought provoking or interesting or anything. Not that it has to be, but I just wouldn't like give
This,
it that big praise.
this is how Noah
Um,
watched the movie the whole time.
I was drunk like the toy store owner.
Yeah.
Um, no, I thought it was solid though. I'd say Billy probably is one of the better slasher villains of this time that I've seen. But that's just saying that just is a testament to how not as great a lot of the other ones are.
Whoa, whoa,
Um,
whoa.
whoa.
Okay, so you're saying what? That he's on the same level as like Freddy or Jason or Chucky?
He's not on the same level as those guys.
Okay,
I'm
so you
talking about like
so you mean the
the
like
lesser known,
non-monster?
yeah, not the franchise movies.
Okay, okay. Now
Yeah.
I had to check because we might have to fight if you said he was like better than the like franchise ones.
At this point, I'm just trying to piss John off. Nah, yeah, I don't think he's as good as like Freddy or Chucky or anything. Um, but no, I mean it's a solid movie. It's one of the better Christmas horror movies I've seen. And I haven't seen a whole lot of those. I got to rewatch Black Christmas. Uh, but yeah, no, I thought it was solid. I'd give it 3 out of 5.
Roberto, speak.
I'm with John. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. It's probably not a top 10 slasher movie for me, and it's not my favorite Christmas horror movie, but it is really good. And especially compared to so many slasher movies from this era, there is a lot more going on. There's actual writing here, and maybe that's where we differ too. No, I think is just I like this type of movie. I like this type of schlocky movie, and a lot of those movies I'd give like a 3 just on like from an entertainment perspective, like
Yeah.
Friday 13th Part 2 is probably like a 3.5 or something for me. Just as a piece of entertainment, it's fun, but
Mm-hmm.
this, while so many of those slasher movies, again, for 2/3 are just padding and characters walking around and just to get to kills, this actually has a complete. This has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. Like this has a complete script. There's
No,
actual
that's true.
writing here, and I think
And
it's well executed.
I tend to not like those movies as much, but Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
see their value.
That's fair. So yeah, I'm giving this a 4. I don't think it's a masterpiece. It's not one of the best I've ever seen. Some of the acting's pretty bad, but that's part of the fun. Anything that's kind of like lousy or cheap or cheesy is it doesn't compromise it. It's just part of the charm and fun. There aren't any parts of the movie where it's trying to make me laugh and failing. Like, oh god, like there are some really bad horror comedies out there that are really trying to be funny and just aren't and are kind of are really difficult to sit through. I never found this boring. I just found it really enjoyable start to finish. Not amazing or anything, but I did really like it. It's some good holiday cheer. If you need some alternative horror to watch this year, this is a really good choice.
Yeah, and it should be noted that at least the theatrical cut, I don't know which like runtime this is listing. Oh, sorry. The theatrical cut is 82 minutes and then the unrated is only 85. Like that is extremely short even for the genre. It gets in, it gets out.
Yes,
Does
especially
job
for a
well.
movie like this that has an actual plot.
Also, a kick-ass
It's very
poster.
efficient with its front. Great poster.
I think it was kind of a missed opportunity to not have Billy attempt to enter a house through a chimney dressed as Santa.
That would have been fun.
That's
Yeah.
how he should have
Yeah.
entered Leona Quigley's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, missed
Zero.
opportunity.
I changed my score. 0 out of 5. This is trash. No,
Yeah.
no. This is how you pick a movie about trauma.
Trauma. Oh, you so yeah, this is better than Don't Look Now. For
This
you.
is 100 times better than Don't Look Now.
I respectfully disagree.
Go that far.
That movie is 2/3 boring.
I just
I disagree.
That's
but
fine.
That's okay.
It's okay.
there's more artistically going on with that movie from a filmmaking perspective.
I
There's
don't
these are
care
very
about
different
that.
movies.
Okay, Robert, you should have been there for our review.
Yeah, if only somebody hadn't bailed. But anyway,
Before you sign off, there's something I just realized. I know that I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you did pick this for October on purpose because Terrifier 3 comes out in October.
That's true.
That's a Christmas movie.
oh, true.
So
Yeah, there you go. See, it's all
You're ahead
part.
of the game.
It's all part of the plan.
Part of the plan.
But no. Anyway, Robert, Noah, as always, it's been a pleasure. We will see you guys later for more Decades of Horror in the month of October. Have a good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Let's get shit faced.